You can make some money with it. Okay, you can make a living with it. That's right. What else have you used a knife for? I mean, I ate a steak with it last night.
Yeah, let's say gutting the fish.
Yeah, fish. You know, eat, clean a deer, all kinds of good things. Well, just like a knife can also be used to hurt people. Can it? Can be used for evil. And so, just like our masculinity, it can be used to hurt people. And so, just like with a knife, I don't know, let me ask you this question. Did anybody, you remember when you got your first knife? Anybody remember that? All right. Who gave it to you?
Got it from a Boy Scout.
Boy Scout.
Can't hurt you anything.
Okay. All right. And did they teach you how to use it, or just give it to you?
They had like a shop and just went and bought them and experimented.
Yeah, okay, you experimented with it. Okay, all right. What were you saying,
I
Ben?
was the same Boy Scouts.
Okay. And did they teach you how to use it or what to do with it? Yeah? Okay, cool. Anything you remember that they said to do or not to do? Not really? Okay.
Well,
I'd open it? Yeah.
You test your blade, not to put along the blade, this way. Yeah.
Okay, so you did get a little instruction.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I know when I gave my kids, or they started playing with knives or whatever, I gave them a few tips. Exactly, I said, listen, you can hurt yourself with it, okay? It may not look like it's sharp, but you can cut yourself with it. And, you always give it to, you don't give it to somebody this way. You give it to them this way. 2 reasons. One, you don't want to hurt them. Secondly, if they happen to grab it, they're not going to cut you. And so there's just some basic things that, we probably, fathers, as we give our sons knives, we should instruct them, and maybe you were given one, or maybe you just experimented with it. So you figured it out. Well, I think the same is true with masculinity. Every young boy is given masculinity, and I think in our culture today, most of the time I just experiment with it and figure out how this thing works. And we as fathers, we as men, we're not instructing young men how to use their masculinity for good, how to use a knife, which is awesome, for all kinds of things. I mean, this got a little thing here I can cut rope with. Now, somebody said, that would come in real handy, if you're in a car wreck, upside down, hanging from a tree, cut your seatbelt off. If you're in a parachute or something like that, you need to cut, paracord or something, or if you're just trying to cut some rope to make a certain length, So, there's all kinds of things, but you got to kind of learn how to use it. You got to know what it is, its function, and this has got a couple of locks on it, and different things, and but the more I use this, the more comfortable I get with it. The other thing is that the blade will dull. Okay, so your masculinity too. You can lose your edge. And so we need to keep reminding ourselves of what that is and how to use our masculinity for good, for God's purposes, for God's kingdom. So you can all put your knives away now. The 2 of us. Obviously what we're going to talk about is masculinity, and I'm going to take a fresh look, maybe hit some things that maybe you hadn't heard of or talked about, and do something a little fresh, a little different. Let's start off with that video.
Well, spending millions of dollars fighting something called toxic masculinity in colleges somehow remarkably hasn't made this country much better, and And yet some want to trickle down on that idea. At the University of Wisconsin at Madison, one professor said we need specialized training against toxic masculinity beginning as early as kindergarten. Only when 6-year-olds are taught about, quote, intersectionality and the complexity of masculinity identities will we be truly free. Do you believe that? Kathy Rue is the founding publisher of Academia Magazine. Of course, she's our local Sherpa, and she joins us tonight. Kathy, how do you think, if you were to take a 5-year-old and talk about the intersectionality of masculine identity, how do you think the 5-year-old would respond?
I think you would talk to the 5-year-old in ways that the 5-year-old could understand. So you would talk about courtesy, politeness, being equal to others, not being aggressive. Boys will be boys. I mean, we've all heard that. Little boys have heard that. That's not going to fly anymore.
Right.
The future thinkers, leaders of America are going to be in a matriarchal society, not little patriarchs. They're not going to be full of toxic masculinity. It's going to be more of a natural masculinity. So we'll have less crime, less violence. Yeah, it'll be a better place to live. Little thinkers of tomorrow will be
Should we have less? So boys can't be boys, but girls can be girls?
Yes, girls can be girls because girls are not the violent ones in our society. I mean, boys grow up to be men and they commit 3 times more violent crime than women. I mean, it's just a fact. So girls are doing it right.
So
girls are growing up right. Boys are not.
Do you think, and you've lived in this world for a while now, the people who come up with ideas like this are literally the unhappiest people in the world? Wouldn't you say that's true? The fewest healthy relationships, the most damaged relationships with their own fathers. Isn't this an outgrowth of their deep unhappiness as people?
Well, there was a woman that wrote against DDT, the pesticide that was killing insects and pests, but also killing birds
Rachel
and bees.
Carson, yes.
Right. So, I mean, so was she unhappy because she didn't like that birds were no longer singing? Or was she saying that we had all these toxins? Yeah, they were helping the crops, but they were killing nature. So it's the same concept. Let's kill toxic masculinity. Let's kill this DDT in our boys. Yeah.
DDT is a man-made chemical.
Right?
Testosterone is naturally occurring.
Yes, the
So
testosterone
why
should
would it
lead
be
to
bad
murder
because it's natural?
it's testosterone isn't equal to toxic masculinity. That's what we're saying. Let's teach boys to not be DDT. Let's make them organic. Let's make them green. Let's make them more positive. Yeah. So.
Okay, well that's
concept.
insane that you put a happy face on it, and I appreciate that. Kathy,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
You can stop there.
Ready to throw my computer against the wall. His face was.
Okay, so hopefully you got a good laugh out of that. But the reality is that is what we're facing in our culture today. And that's why I just think it's so important that we need to understand what masculinity is. And we need to be able to share that, teach our young men what is masculinity and how to use it correctly. And obviously there's plenty of men that use it incorrectly. But how do you use it? How do you handle it? And what is it? Is it toxic? I mean, is a knife evil? It's what the owner does with it. Is masculinity evil? God designs a beautiful thing, but it is what the owner does with it. And so, yes, masculinity can be used for evil. So can femininity. You know, obviously we didn't get to that. You know, she didn't get to that. I mean, from that perspective, I mean, basically we need to turn boys into girls. And that's really what she was kind of saying, and what is really, I wouldn't say laughable, but really we should be shocked by. And that was, I mean, she was just, I mean, I admire her boldness of this. And so anyway, let's talk a little bit about that. And I want to start off by just looking at some of the words, the Hebrew words that were used for masculinity and femininity. And we're going to really talk about both, because I think it's important for us men to understand not only who we are as men, what masculinity is, but what is femininity too. what? We interact with it, okay? And we want to interact with it, okay? And we have wives, we have girlfriends, we have daughters, there's women all around us, which is a good thing, which I love, and the way God designed it. And so we need to know what that's all about. If I'm shaking up here, it's because I'm cold. I am sure. Don't give me the shorts thing, all right? Yeah. Oh, maybe. All right. So in Genesis chapter 3. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. I really appreciate it. Okay, in Genesis chapter 3, where God first has created, man, and He created the woman. The word used for man is zakar. The Hebrew word for female is, and I'm going to mispronounce this, it's nekeba. All right, Neqebah. So now you know a Hebrew word, okay? Two of them. And zakar is Zakar. Doesn't that kind of sound masculine? Zakar. If I were to have another kid, maybe I'd name him Zakar. But anyway, another boy, that is. Let's take a look at the feminine word, or the female word, nekeba. And I probably won't try to say that again. Anyway, I'll just say the female word. Neqebah. What that word literally means, it means one who has been punctured through. It's like if you were to knock a hole in something. And so it's the idea that one has been pierced through and is open to receive. And if you think about it, and the reality is the awesome parallels between these words, the way God's made us as men with our masculinity, women with their femininity, is the same way our bodies are. You think about it, a woman, she is open to receive physically. She's open to receive, but then she takes what she gets and she gives back way more than she ever got. And that's true femininity is, from these words, I believe the way God designed it to be, is that a woman receives and gives back in a perfect world. What happens is women get hurt, they get fearful, and they close up. And they're not willing to receive. And they don't give back. And they try to control. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll talk about us, our tendency. In the New Testament, in Mark 10:6, when Jesus refers to the woman, and He uses the word woman, He uses a Greek word, and that Greek word is Thelus, Thelus. And it implies something with the capacity to nourish, to release into another what can be sustained, what can sustain another's life. And so it's the idea of the invitational beauty and the character of Jesus on display. And that's really what a woman does really, really well. She puts the beautiful, invitational nature of Jesus on display. If you think about it, we as men, you see a beautiful woman, doesn't that look invitational? It does. We're drawn to it. In the same way, we're drawn to the beauty and the love of God. When we really see Him for who He is, we are drawn to that. And so How does a woman put the gospel on display? That's how she puts the gospel on display. She wants to be seen for her beauty and valued for what she can give. A woman really wants to be valued. Years ago, my first wife, most of y'all know I joke about around that, I've only had one. And anyway, but she was a part of a significant woman project. And I mean, man, this thing was just super popular among women. And I'm sitting here going, why, you know, I mean, if we did a significant man thing, yeah, you know, we men like to be significant, that's true, you know, but man, why is this so? And I just pondered that. And really, when I study this and I realize is that what it is that there's, in our culture, women, generally speaking, they're looking to feel valuable. They have a part. They have a significant part. And that's one thing that we men, maybe we're not doing a good job of, is letting the women in our life know that, man, you are valuable. You are invaluable to this, you know, marriage, to this team, you know, workplace, you know, wherever you might be, is that we need to communicate to them that they are invaluable, because they really are. I mean, guys, these women bring something into our lives and into the world that we just can't do. And they are invaluable. And part of our role, I think, is to let them know that they're invaluable and that they are valuable. They bring a tremendous value. And a woman, though, just like Eve, after she sinned and she quit relying on God for what she needed, she decided that she would take care of herself, and she would take care of herself, and she'd go to the man to get her needs met. Well, fear steps in. And what happens is, a woman's fear is that she would be lost and alone. She would be invisible. And you know, you think about it, and we talk about it in different events, you know, like our daughters, little girls, you know, they want to put on some frilly dress and come in and twirl around, and it's kind of like, Daddy, do you see me? Do you notice me? You know? And I would add to that, you know, am I valuable to you? Do you see? You know? And so really, even in a grown adult woman, it's the same way. You know, they may not be acting like a little girl. They may go get their hair done and kind of walk in and go, is he going to notice? You know, they get some new clothes, you know, or try something new, or you know, whatever it might be. And to us men, they're going to say, is he noticing? Or am I invisible? What happens is, in her fear, she becomes closed. She's got to self-protect. And that's the way she feels. I've got to self-protect. And as Mark and I were having this discussion, and I think John, we were having this discussion the other day, and in my situation, and where, you know, my wife left me, what I can look back and say, what happened in the relationship, she just became closed. She just closed off. Doors closed, lights are off, as far as when it came to me. It's over. And she was not open to receive anything from me. And that's what happens. And I think we see a lot of women. I would say that woman up there, for some reason, something's happened. She was closed off. Yeah. Somewhere.
Something happened.
Yeah. More than likely, yes. What were you saying?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, but aren't we supposed to, like, pray for our enemies?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, in her situation, you know, you can see that closed part to her. She just won't go there. Let's see.
In those cases, the deep wound. From the father, from her mother.
Well, she was open at one time. Something happened. She was wounded, became fearful. So she's got to close up, and then the natural sinful tendency is to want to then control my environment. And if she's got a man in her life, then she's going to want to control that man to get her needs met. Now, what she needs to learn to do as a follower of Jesus Christ, as a daughter of the Son of God, is to learn to trust God. Just like we men have to learn to trust God in a different way, they have to learn to trust God in a vulnerable way. So, well, I'm vulnerable. Yes, you are. And that's why we men need to be protectors, because women are vulnerable. They are meant to be open, which means some yahoo's going to come in and hurt her. And probably a lot of us have done some of that too. Maybe not intentionally, but we have. Because a woman is vulnerable. They're open to receive, and they're meant to do that, to bring it in, to nourish it, and return it back with more. And you think about it in the physical sense, again, I'll bring that up, but a man comes and what does he present? A sperm. She takes it with the egg, nourishes it, she produces a child. And then she nourishes that child. So that child is able to function on her own. So she gives back way more than I ever contributed to this thing. And that's the way a woman operates in this world. She gives back way more than she was ever given.
Do you think when you're talking about how it's possible to use masculinity in a harmful way, and so with our wives, if we use our masculinity in a harmful way, that closes them up. It could also impact their relationship with the father if they feel like they can't trust us, that they can't trust the father.
It can have those, have those implications. Now, ultimately, we have our own responsibility before God, both men and women. But we can be a part of Satan coming in and saying, well, look what he's doing. You better close up. You better self-protect. You better take control of this situation because, look, he hurt you. You know, and yeah, that...
No, that's our responsibility, but to see how we can have that impact.
Yes, you can. And when we see that, you know, with our daughters, you know, we might do something, and you can see where she kind of maybe closes up a little bit. We go, ooh, you know. Be careful with that knife, that masculinity God's given you. Now, there's...
Yeah.
What happens then is a woman then begins to demand, and you must come through for me, or I'll leave you, or I'll hurt you. And a woman can't hurt us, guys. I mean, we need to own up to the fact that, yeah, a woman's, you know, her femininity there's a power there, and just like in our masculinity, and it can wound us. Jesus can empower the woman to relate like Jesus invitationally. Never demanding or controlling, but depending on and enjoying God, not going to men or to others to meet her need, her deep, deep need. In other words, if she's open and invitational, she says, God, I trust you that you're going to take care of me. This is pretty scary. All right? For us men on the other side, God calls us to move relationally. And we go, hey, what do you do? You know, this is scary to move in relationally. You know, I don't know what to do. I feel incompetent. We have to say, okay, God, I trust you. But you're going to take care of me as I move forward in this. And so ultimately, we have to go back, and I say back to the garden, and kind of back up where Adam and Eve screwed up and their connection with God. And then we can have that connection with each other that God intended. But we've got to go back and depend on God in those areas. And then we can, the woman can be open, the man can move. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the man, Zakar. Zakar means in the Hebrew, it means to leave a mark, to make an impact, to be remembered for something important. Move in, you know, to the idea of moving in to do something important. And you think about that. Isn't that what we like to, isn't that what we kind of feel good about? I'm moved in, we got something critical done. You know, us guys, if we want to leave something in life, you know, we'll give a donation and have them put our name on the building. You know, feel like, okay, I accomplished something. You know, I did something. We're typically the ones that go and carve our names and our girlfriend's name or whatever on a tree. We want to leave a mark, all right? And you know, that's us guys. You know, we're the ones that, you know, will get a can of spray paint and deface the building. Why? We want to leave a mark. Not so much the women that do that, but it comes out of our masculinity, who God gave us. We want to leave a mark. We want to leave a legacy. We want to have an impact on our world. And if we feel like we're not, then we feel impotent. We feel weak as men. In Mark 10, when Jesus spoke of the man, he used a Greek word, arsen, A-R-S-E-N. It just hit me right now. Does that have anything to do with fire? But to refer to male. Arsen means the ability to mirror God's penetrating, powerful love by moving deeply into another soul with life-changing impact. Now, for those of us that are in ministry or maybe desire to be in ministry, well, that's part of my motive. I want to be able to have a life-changing impact in people's lives. And, you know, if you're working for a business or you have a business or whatever, don't you want to feel like, man, we're making a difference in the world? You know, I think about what you're doing. You feel like, man, you want to feel like you're making a difference. You're helping, doing something. And so, you know, whatever we do, we want to feel like that we're making a difference. And that is important. That is a part of our masculinity. And we can go about that in the wrong way. We can use our masculinity, you know, and force that to happen in a wrong way, you know, or we can trust God and move into areas that are scary. We don't feel confident. And a lot of this movement that we're talking about, you know, is relational movement. It's kind of like, guys, we can go out and build a house. You know, we can do that. No big deal, you know. But to move into someone's life, especially a woman, maybe, relationally, woo, now that's scary. Now I feel inadequate. I'm not sure about this, if we really get down to it. And so that's the area where we need to learn to trust God. And God says move. The thing is for me, is life that, you know, there are times when I feel down and depressed. And really, what I've come to realize is that, generally speaking, it's because I feel like, well, there's just nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. But let's think about that in a different way. There's nothing I can do. I'm not moving forward relationally. I'm just holding back. Why? Because I'm scared. Because, well, that didn't work and I feel like a failure or this or that. Whereas when I go, you know what, just go out there and do something. And I do. Maybe something happens, maybe it doesn't. But somehow I feel better. And I feel more like a man. And I believe that's what it is. It's just when I hold back in my masculinity, try to play it safe, try to be secure, and I don't want to move out relationally, and I don't want to move towards somebody or ask somebody this or invite somebody to do this or go deal with this situation over here with somebody that I've been avoiding because I don't want to move in relationally because I don't really know what to do, or I'm afraid what's going to happen, or whatever it might be, then I begin to feel more depressed. That's what I've noticed in my life. But if I'm willing to move, then I'm like, again, it may not turn out the way I want it to, but I've moved relationally. I've been a man, if I can say it that way. And somehow God gets in the middle of that. And that's where I believe it's like with a woman. Yeah, she's naturally vulnerable. But guess what? She's really got God as her protector. That doesn't mean that stuff doesn't happen. All right? But even when she tries to close and self-protect, it's still going to happen. Why not trust her Heavenly Father? Us, as we move relationally, why not trust our Heavenly Father? And enjoy the ride. So arson, the ability to mirror God's penetrating and powerful love by moving deeply into another's soul with life-changing impact. That's how, as men, we best represent the gospel. And if you think about it, I love it, and it's probably because I'm a man, the idea that, God moved into our neighborhood. And I think about us as men, we go to work, it's like, I'm moving in. God's moving in. And that's our masculinity. That's one way that we bring the gospel into the world, is everywhere we go, it's just like, well, you may be off over here, you may be this, or it's just like with that woman, you might feel like her and her camp is pretty hostile. Well, she just needs some men to go move in with the power of God's love. And that's what we men do, is we move into a situation with the power, the penetrating, awesome power of God's love. And that's what we bring to the world through the gospel. That's masculinity. The gospel masculinity is to move in with God's powerful love. Like, we're going to do something about this. I'm here. You don't have to like me, but I'm here. Let's see what I can do to help. And I love you. And I'm willing to sacrifice and do whatever to show you that. Those words together for the men suggest the idea that a man reflects God's remembering what is important and moving into a disordered and chaotic situation with strength to make a very important difference. And so this is one thing that I want to encourage you guys with, is as you move with that masculine strength into an area, I think God will ensure that there will be an important impact that will happen. You may not see it, but it will. It will happen, and I think we can be confident of that. And I think God will allow us to see that from time to time. That as we move out with His powerful love, relationally, that we're going to leave an impact, an eternal impact, guaranteed. Why? God will make sure that happens. So we must move with relational risk and remember God's power, faithfulness, and goodness, and His presence with us. Fear keeps us from remembering and moving. We get fearful. Why? Well, we're not going to make an impact. We're not really that important. I really don't have what it takes. And so that's... Last night I talked about how sin has an impact. That's the impact, the power of sin, is it brings fear on. And I've noticed in my life there's certain sins that I might do. Well, I become more fearful when I'm involved with those sins. And so that's where I need to confess it and ask God, to bring in His power, and He will. He'll deliver me from that power. And the fear goes. A man's fear, another way to say it, is to feel insignificant or to feel weightless. Now, I don't know. I'm just going to use this as an illustration. You might have walked into this weekend. Another way to say it, a lot of times we as guys, we're kind of like dogs. We're going to surround and smell each other's butt to see, who's kind of the alpha dog. But the same thing is we walk into any especially new situation, and we want to, and what we don't want to do is we don't want to feel weightless. Like, who are we Do you matter here? Are you a part of this thing? You know, and so that's our fear. That's how our fear gets manifest. Is we feel insignificant, like we don't matter. And I know for me, I mean, I have situations, you know, with my kids, you know, my past marriage, where sometimes it just doesn't matter. Well, it's not true. But that's how in our sin we put our masculinity aside. And we don't use it how God intended it to be. You know, men, I believe this, is that you should look at every time you walk into a situation or in any group, you're bringing in God's life-changing, powerful love. And you have an ability, and it matters. It matters. It may not be recognized, but it matters. And when you don't bring your masculinity into a situation, something's missing. Something won't happen. Somebody's going to be less because of it. A woman opens herself up to others to reveal the beauty of an indescribable gentle spirit and an undemanding quiet spirit, in a way of relating that refuses to be controlled by fear. This is for a woman. I tell you what, a woman that refuses to be controlled by fear, man, her femininity is awesome. And she is a woman to be feared in a way. Because it's like, if I'm going to violate her, then I'm going to have to deal with God. And you don't want to mess with God. The same way as we fathers, it's the same way. Our daughters should feel like, well, Dad's got me covered. You mess with me, you're going to mess with Dad. A man moves towards others, pouring into others a life-giving love that is willing to endure indifference, criticism, and sacrifice. He's not controlled by fear, and he reveals God, the gospel, by moving toward them, not away from them. Let me just read this. Little girls begin life destined to be opened. But what happens is they're determined to be closed, to be safe and secure, because they're afraid of being abused. A fearful woman, they find their significance by giving, here's how they find their significance, by giving God vulnerable love. Well, I'm sorry, this is not written well. But they, what happens is they end up demanding to be loved and protected. If you don't love and protect me, then I'll close myself off to you. And I will find someone who will give me what I demand. And she opens herself up to be quarrelsome and controlling. Little boys begin life destined to move. But what happens is we stop. We avoid failure. Fearful boys and men find their significance by impacting others with God revealing movement of love. But what happens is we demand something from others. We demand that they respect us, that they notice us. And we want to be affirmed that we're making a positive impact. If we don't feel like we're making a positive impact and somebody is telling us that, then we'll move on to something else. Another situation. That's a man that's really weak in his masculinity, doesn't understand who he is, and who his masculinity is. That he does make an impact. He does carry weight. All right, I'm going to compare masculinity and femininity a little bit, just use some different words. Okay, so men, movement. Guys, are you moving somewhere? Or you're just sitting there on your butt? Now, right now we're sitting on our butt, but but you know, And you think about it, guys, what do we like to do? We like to do something. We're doers. And we're most satisfied, fulfilled when we're doing. And when we're doing it in the right way and realize that we're making an impact, then we are most fulfilled when we are moving. Failure's not even in there. Yeah, we'll fail. So what? We're moving. I love the stories of men that have failed way more than have ever succeeded. Walt Disney's one. I mean, the list can go on. One of my favorite deals, and you guys that know me, I'm sure you've heard me say, how'd they come up with the name WD-40? Took 40 attempts. Failed 40 times. But everybody in this room probably has a can of WD-40, okay? One success. So anyway, we tend to focus on the failures. Let's just keep moving forward. Women, influence. Now think about this. One of a woman's most powerful power, I believe, is influence. Think about it. How many women have gotten you to do things that you never thought you would do? Okay? She has a powerful influence. And one of the things stories that God brought to my mind very quickly when I started thinking about that was David, when David was going to go kill Nabal, I think it was, because he had kind of watched his sheep, and then he said, hey, how about a little, I need some help here. I'm out of resources. I've been kind of guarding and keeping your sheep safe and that kind of thing. And Nabal said, forget you. And David was well, tell you what, you're dead. It wasn't really a good thing for David to do that, but here he was coming in, he was going to annihilate him, his family, servants, everything, take them out, okay? David had a little bit of a temper, and he was a good warrior. We know he's a good fighter, all right? He was gifted with that. Well, guess what happens? Remember the story. Nabal's wife, Abigail, heard what was about to happen. Well, she jumps on it, and she's really a good woman. She's looking out for her husband. And everything that, you could call it a little self-protect, but she could have just taken it and run or said, David, he's a bad dude. Help me out. Okay, she didn't do that. She went there. I admire her. Good woman. She went there and said, David, this is not a wise thing to do. Listen, I will do what we need to do. What do you need? Take care of it. Very wise woman. And she influenced David in a very positive way. Very positive way. And so much so, and I think David, he was a wise man. He recognized that when she no longer had a husband, David was like, hey, I like your influence.
Yeah.
Come on. I need your kind of influence. And the question I have, and research too much, you don't read a whole lot about it. I mean, you see where David did take another wife at that time too. But how much did Abigail influence David for good to be the man that David was when he led the kingdom? I would guess that Abigail was pretty influential in his life. And you think about us, the women that have been in our life, they've been very influential. One of the first girls I dated in college, well, something very influential she did to me is she got me to quit putting sugar on my Raisin Bran. I just want to go do it. And finally I said, well, okay, if you say so. So I don't put sugar on my Raisin Bran anymore. And I haven't had a woman tell me to quit putting sugar in my tea yet, so I still put sugar in my tea. Depend on God. J, Jesus is my master. A, accept responsibility for the mission. No excuses. All right, let me pray for us.